Why older adults keep waking up at 3 a.m. and what it really means for your health and sleep. Senior. Many older adults frequently find themselves wide awake in the quiet stillness of 3 a.m., unable to drift back into restful slumber. This common experience often leads to moments of confusion and frustration, as one lies in the darkened room, perhaps staring at the ceiling, questioning the body's internal workings and the mind's sudden alertness. Far from being a mere random occurrence or an unavoidable consequence of aging, this phenomenon is deeply rooted in complex physiological and psychological shifts that occur over a lifetime. The patterns of early morning wakefulness are, in essence, profound messages from our bodies, signaling deeper changes in our health, our habits, and our overall life experience. Understanding these signals can transform nocturnal frustration into compassionate self-awareness and empower individuals to navigate their sleep patterns with greater insight and peace. This exploration delves into 5 significant reasons why people tend to rouse around these early hours as they age, aiming to illuminate what these nocturnal awakenings might truly be attempting to communicate. These explanations transcend superficial observations, drawing instead from established principles of physiology, the intricate workings of psychology, and the natural, often subtle rhythms of aging that frequently go unrecognized. We will consider how hormonal fluctuations, evolving sleep architecture, the emergence of health challenges, and even the nuanced interplay of emotional and social factors can quietly exert influence behind the scenes. The discussion aims to be honest, empowering, and deeply respectful of the rich tapestry of life experiences that shape each individual's journey. For anyone who has ever found themselves awake at 3 a.m. pondering the why, these insights offer a fresh perspective, potentially fostering not only improved sleep, but also a more profound appreciation and understanding of the body's ongoing transformations. Reduced melatonin production. One of the most evident and biologically grounded explanations for why older adults frequently wake in the middle of the night, often specifically around 3 a.m., is the natural and progressive decline in the body's production of melatonin as we age. Melatonin, frequently referred to as the hormone of darkness, is a crucial neurohormone primarily secreted by the pineal gland. Its fundamental role is to orchestrate and regulate our intricate sleep-wake cycle, essentially acting as the body's master internal clock or circadian rhythm. During our younger years, the body typically maintains a robust and consistent nocturnal release of melatonin. This steady supply effectively signals to the brain that it is time for sleep, facilitating an easy onset of rest and, critically, sustaining deep, uninterrupted sleep throughout the night. This consistent hormonal presence ensures that the various stages of sleep, from light sleep to deep restorative slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, progress smoothly, allowing for comprehensive physical and mental recuperation. However, as the decades accumulate, the pineal gland's efficiency in synthesizing and releasing melatonin gradually diminishes. This age-related reduction means that while an older individual might still fall asleep relatively easily in the early evening, perhaps due to accumulated fatigue from a busy day or the calming influence of a relaxing evening routine, the natural reserves of melatonin begin to dwindle prematurely. By the pre-dawn hours, typically between 2 a.m., 3 a.m., or even 4 a.m., this crucial hormonal supply can dip to levels insufficient to maintain the deeper, more consolidated stages of sleep. The brain then finds itself without the strong biochemical anchor it once had, allowing it to gradually shift back towards a state of wakefulness. This awakening is often not triggered by external stimuli like a sudden noise or the vivid imagery of a dream, but rather by an intrinsic physiological shift within the brain itself, gently nudging one out of sleep without enough melatonin to hold the restful state. It is vital to recognize that this decline in melatonin production is not a sign of personal failure or a flaw in one's body. Rather, it is a normal and expected part of the aging process, reflecting an inherent change in internal neurochemistry. Furthermore, environmental factors within the sleep sanctuary can significantly exacerbate this natural decline. Even seemingly negligible sources of light can have a profound impact. A faint glow from a digital clock on the bedside table, the subtle bleed of light from a hallway underneath the bedroom door, or even the distant illumination from a street lamp filtering through thin curtains can actively suppress the already reduced melatonin output. As the body ages, it often becomes more acutely sensitive to these environmental triggers, meaning that what might have been an imperceptible disturbance in youth can become a potent sleep disruptor later in life, making that 3 a.m. awakening feel all the more perplexing and frustrating. Consider the experience of Harold, a sprightly 72-year-old who, for most of his life, prided himself on being an excellent sleeper. Lately, however, he found himself consistently wide awake around 3:15 a.m. most nights. Intriguingly, he didn't feel anxious or distressed. Instead, he simply felt fully alert, as if his day was meant to begin at that hour. Once he grasped that this pattern wasn't a personal failing, but a well-documented, normal physiological consequence of aging directly linked to his body's diminishing melatonin, his perspective shifted dramatically. He ceased self-blame and proactively began to implement supportive adjustments to his evening routine. Harold now meticulously ensures his bedroom is profoundly dark, blocking out all external light sources. He has made a conscious effort to disengage from screens, televisions, tablets, and phones for at least an hour before his intended bedtime, recognizing the blue light's melatonin-suppressing effects. Additionally, he has incorporated a brief, gentle evening walk into his routine. This outdoor exposure to natural light earlier in the day and the light physical activity serve to subtly reinforce his natural circadian rhythm, sending clearer signals to his body about the distinction between day and night. While these thoughtful changes haven't entirely eliminated his early awakenings, he now experiences them less frequently. And when they do occur, he approaches them with a newfound understanding, working cooperatively with his body's changing rhythms instead of fighting against them. This profound shift in understanding is truly a game changer. When individuals comprehend that early morning wakefulness might not stem from a personal shortcoming, but from a natural, intrinsic chemical alteration, they are empowered to take proactive, supportive steps for their sleep, rather than resenting their own bodies. This embrace of awareness transforms the frustration often associated with such awakenings into a sense of compassion, enabling wiser and more effective choices in nurturing one's well-being through the night. Shifted sleep cycle and advanced sleep phase. Beyond the direct impact of melatonin levels, another crucial biological mechanism contributing to older adults' tendency to wake around 3 a.m. is a natural recalibration of the body's intrinsic timing system, known scientifically as the advanced sleep phase syndrome. As the human body matures through its life stages, its intricate circadian rhythms, the approximately 24-hour cycles that govern numerous physiological and behavioral processes, including the sleep-wake cycle, gradually begin to drift forward. This means that the entire timing of our biological day, from when we feel naturally inclined to become sleepy to when we naturally feel rested and ready to awaken, tends to occur earlier. It's not uncommon for individuals experiencing this shift to find themselves involuntarily nodding off while watching a late-night television program, or conversely waking up spontaneously at the first hint of dawn, often before their alarm, even on days when they wished for extended slumber. This profound temporal shift is far from being merely a matter of learned habit. It is deeply embedded in our biological programming and can become increasingly pronounced and noticeable with each passing year. During the younger adult years, the body's circadian rhythm is often harmoniously aligned with a later bedtime preference and a wake-up time that generally coincides with later morning light. This typically allows for a longer, later sleep window. However, as the advanced sleep phase takes hold and the internal clock ticks ahead, this preferred sleep window naturally shifts earlier. Consequently, an individual might find themselves feeling profoundly sleepy and falling asleep as early as 9 p.m., or even earlier without consciously intending to. When sleep commences so much earlier in the evening, the body's essential cycle of rest, which typically spans around 7 to 9 hours for adults, can be completed well before the conventional morning hours. This explains why by the time 3 a.m. arrives, one might be wide awake and feeling surprisingly refreshed, with a distinct sense that their full allotment of rest has been achieved, despite the lingering darkness outside. This intrinsic shift in timing does not imply that there is any dysfunction. Rather, it indicates that the body is now simply operating on a fundamentally different, earlier schedule. To better understand this, one can envision the body's internal clock not as a rigid, unchanging mechanism, but as a clock that has been gently but persistently reset over many years, advancing its hands a little further each season. While this biological adjustment is typically benign and not inherently harmful to one's health, it can certainly become a source of considerable frustration. This frustration often arises when the body's new, earlier rhythm clashes with established lifestyle patterns, pre-existing family routines, or personal preferences for later social engagement or morning activities. The incongruity between internal biology and external demands can create a sense of misalignment. Beyond the purely physiological, there is also a significant, though often quiet, psychological dimension to this age-related shift. Many older adults find themselves in living situations characterized by quieter households, perhaps after children have grown and moved out, or they may spend more time alone. This serene and less stimulated environment can inadvertently amplify the body's natural signals to commence its winding down process much earlier in the day. Without the constant sensory input, bustling activity, or social interactions that might have once served to delay bedtime in earlier life stages, the body's autonomic nervous system begins its nightly shutdown process considerably sooner. Furthermore, for those who have transitioned into retirement, or whose daily lives no longer adhere to the strict external time cues of a full-time work schedule, such as fixed meeting times, regular commutes, or structured social gatherings, the absence of these external anchors can allow the internal circadian shift to become even more pronounced and unchallenged. Consider Charles, a 68-year-old retired gentleman. His routine often included an early dinner around 5:30 p.m., followed by an hour of television viewing, after which he would typically head to bed by 9 p.m. Consistently by 3 a.m., his body would be naturally primed for wakefulness. Initially, Charles misattributed this to a developing case of insomnia, a common concern among older adults. However, upon learning about the advanced sleep phase syndrome, he realized that his sleep wasn't broken or problematic. It had simply been naturally rescheduled by his internal biology. Armed with this understanding, Charles began making conscious adjustments to his evening routine, aiming to gently stretch his sleep window slightly later. He started reading a captivating book under a warmer, less stimulating light in the evenings, took a leisurely, gentle walk after dinner to incorporate more physical activity later in the day, and occasionally made a point of calling his daughter for a brief, engaging chat before retiring. These seemingly minor social and sensory cues served as gentle external anchors, helping to nudge his natural sleep onset just a bit later. The beneficial outcome was a noticeable reduction in his 3 a.m. awakenings and a deeper, more harmonious sense of alignment between his natural bodily rhythms and his desired daily life schedule. This natural progression in the sleep cycle is a widely experienced phenomenon among older adults, yet it is often discussed infrequently or misunderstood. Gaining insight into this biological reality can alleviate a significant burden of guilt or confusion, offering a more compassionate and effective approach to collaborating with one's body rather than engaging in a futile struggle against its intrinsic timing. Therefore, if you find yourself waking consistently around 3 a.m. and genuinely feel as though you have completed a full and satisfying night's sleep, it is highly probable that your body has simply adopted an earlier sleep schedule. Recognizing this fundamental shift empowers you to intentionally reshape your daily routine in ways that genuinely support your overall well-being and enhance your quality of life. Physical discomfort and health-related interruptions. A particularly common and often underestimated contributor to early morning awakenings in older adults, frequently occurring around the 3 a.m. mark, stems from the body's response to various forms of physical discomfort or the subtle yet pervasive influence of underlying health issues. These issues tend to become more prominent and disruptive during the quiet, dark hours of the night. As we progress through the aging process, the likelihood of developing or experiencing chronic health conditions or even minor insidious health problems significantly increases. What is particularly challenging is that many of these conditions have a clandestine way of disrupting sleep, without announcing their presence with loud or obvious alarms. Instead, they often insinuate themselves quietly, manifesting as a persistent ache in a joint, the undeniable pressure of a full bladder, or a sudden, sharp twinge in the lower back. Any of these subtle sensations can be sufficient to gently yet firmly rouse an individual from a state of deep restorative sleep, abruptly bringing them into a lighter stage of consciousness or even full wakefulness in the dead of night. Consider prevalent conditions such as arthritis, which can transform the seemingly simple act of lying in a fixed position for several hours into an uncomfortable ordeal. While the discomfort might be negligible or entirely unnoticed upon first falling asleep, after several hours of relative stillness, the accumulated pressure and inflammation can build to a level significant enough to disturb sleep and nudge one awake. For others, particularly those who struggle with gastroesophageal reflux disease, GERD, or simply have a sensitive digestive system, nighttime acid reflux can be a potent sleep disruptor. This is especially true if a large or late dinner was consumed, or if one reclines too soon after eating, allowing stomach acids to more easily flow back into the esophagus, causing burning and discomfort that is difficult to ignore when lying flat. Furthermore, even seemingly minor physical sensations can act as triggers. Issues like persistent dry mouth, which can result from certain medications or decreased saliva production, or recurrent muscle cramps, especially in the legs, can become surprisingly potent sleep-disturbing factors. Even a slight, unperceived alteration in the bedroom's ambient temperature, becoming too warm or too cool, can trigger a light awakening during those early morning hours, precisely when the body's natural defenses and tolerance for discomfort are often more sensitive and less forgiving than they once were in youth. Among older men, one of the single most prevalent physical reasons for consistent 3 a.m. awakenings is the imperative need to urinate, a condition known as nocturia. With advancing age, the bladder's elasticity and capacity naturally diminish, and the urge to void can manifest more rapidly and frequently throughout the night. During the active hours of the day, with numerous distractions keeping the mind engaged, these urges might be easily managed or even unnoticed. However, at 3 a.m., in the profound silence and darkness of a bedroom, that internal sensation becomes virtually impossible to disregard. Once an individual gets up and moves, even if it is only a brief trip to the bathroom, the body's physiological state can undergo a significant shift, transitioning from a deeper, more quiescent phase of rest to a state of heightened alertness. This transition can make the subsequent return to a restful sleep much more challenging, sometimes impossible for the remainder of the night. Moreover, the widespread use of medications among older adults introduces another layer of complexity. Many individuals regularly take prescription drugs for a range of conditions, including blood pressure regulation, heart health, diabetes management, or chronic pain. A significant proportion of these medications carry potential side effects that can silently, yet profoundly, impact sleep architecture and continuity. These side effects might include increased frequency of urination, alterations in core body, temperature, or an heightened sensitivity to subtle environmental disturbances like noise or light. It is not uncommon for individuals to remain unaware of the direct correlation between their prescribed medicines and their disrupted sleep patterns until the connection is explicitly highlighted by a healthcare professional or through the meticulous tracking of their daily habits and sleep logs. Consider the case of Eleanor, a 76-year-old woman who, throughout her life, had always considered herself a relatively light sleeper. Over the past year, however, she began experiencing consistent awakenings around 3:30 a.m., for no apparent reason. After months of attributing this simply to the inevitable process of aging, she decided to discuss it with her doctor. Through this consultation, she discovered that one of her long-standing medications was subtly affecting her hydration levels, consequently increasing her need for nighttime bathroom visits. Working collaboratively with her physician, Eleanor adjusted the timing of her medication dosage, implementing it earlier in the day. She also adopted a few targeted lifestyle changes, such as slightly limiting fluid intake in the hours immediately before bed, and ensuring better overall hydration during the daytime. As a direct result of these informed interventions, she now experiences less frequent awakenings and, when she does wake, finds it significantly easier to return to a state of restful sleep. The crucial message emanating from these experiences is that physical awakenings should not be perceived as evidence of the body's failure. On the contrary, they are often indicative that the body is still diligently performing its vital functions, responding to internal changes, alerting you to needs, and attempting to adjust to physiological demands. These signals, though inconvenient, serve as invaluable guides, steering you towards better self-care practices, more informed health choices, and fostering a deeper sense of trust in your own bodily awareness. While waking up at 3 a.m. can undoubtedly feel like a significant disruption, It can also be interpreted as a quiet, persistent nudge, an invitation to tune in, to conduct an internal health check, and to proactively implement small, thoughtful changes that collectively contribute to enhanced health and a more profound restorative rest. Lifestyle habits that shift your sleep rhythm. Beyond the direct biological and medical factors, another potent yet frequently underestimated reason why older adults often find themselves awake at 3 a.m. lies in the subtle, cumulative impact of long-standing daily habits and routines. These seemingly minor choices and established patterns over extended periods can quietly but fundamentally reshape an individual's internal circadian rhythm. Many older adults, particularly those who have transitioned into retirement or experienced significant shifts in their daily schedules, naturally begin to eat dinner earlier in the evening, wind down and relax sooner, and engage in less intensive physical activity throughout their day. Individually, these adjustments may appear insignificant, but collectively, they accumulate, effectively signaling to the body that the nighttime phase of its cycle should commence earlier. This earlier initiation of the nocturnal cycle inevitably and logically pushes the wake-up time forward, often directly into those pre-dawn hours. When daily life becomes significantly quieter and less structured, especially in the post-retirement phase, the body no longer receives the same array of robust external time cues it once relied upon. The consistent rhythm of commuting, the necessity of running numerous errands, or the engagement in mentally demanding or physically stimulating tasks that characterized earlier life stages diminishes. In the absence of these powerful external synchronizers, the body's intrinsic sleep-wake cycle can begin to drift forward, unanchored, and subtly shifting its timing. A calm, dimly lit evening, spent with minimal external stimulation such as quiet reading or gentle television viewing, can inadvertently prompt the brain to initiate its melatonin production earlier than before. This premature release of melatonin effectively invites sleep before one might even consciously realize that the clock has comfortably passed 9 p.m. And once sleep begins earlier in the evening, it logically follows that the body will complete its requisite period of rest sooner, leading to those unsolicited awakenings in the still pre-dawn hours, very frequently right around 3 a.m. Furthermore, there exists a subtle yet significant relationship between the timing of food consumption and the overall quality and continuity of sleep. While eating dinner earlier in the evening is often considered a healthy practice, it can sometimes contribute to an undesirable dip in blood sugar levels during the overnight hours, particularly if there is no small, light snack consumed closer to bedtime. This nocturnal dip in glucose may not necessarily manifest as overt hunger pangs, but it can still be sufficient to subtly rouse the body from its deeper sleep stages. Similarly, the consumption of caffeine, even if limited to the early afternoon, can have a more prolonged and pronounced effect on the aging body. As metabolism naturally tends to slow, down with age, caffeine can linger in the system for longer periods, subtly lightening the overall depth of sleep. This reduced sleep depth makes the individual more susceptible to waking up in response to any minor internal or external disturbance that might otherwise have been slept through. Consider Walter, a 74-year-old who recently embraced retirement. For him, these shifts in routine were gradual and almost imperceptible at first. His days, previously governed by the demands of a profession, became notably less structured, and his evenings transitioned into a state of increased relaxation. He soon found himself having supper as early as 5 p.m., frequently nodding off in his favorite recliner during the evening news, and habitually heading to bed before 9 p.m. most nights. Without conscious awareness, his entire daily routine had organically shifted forward by a couple of hours. Before long, Walter began to experience consistent awakenings around 3 a.m., genuinely puzzled as to why he was wide awake and fully alert before the first birds even began their morning chorus. After a period of thoughtful reflection on his newly formed routines, Walter decided to implement some targeted adjustments. He introduced a short, brisk walk in the late afternoon, ensuring some physical activity later in the day. He also made a conscious effort to read in a brighter, more stimulating light during the early evening hours and diligently avoided napping after dinner. These small yet impactful changes collectively helped to nudge his natural sleep window just a bit later, allowing his body to gradually re-establish a rhythm that aligned more closely with his desired wake-up time, closer to traditional morning. What is particularly noteworthy and often overlooked is the immense power inherent in routine. Our bodies fundamentally are creatures of rhythm. They thrive on predictable daily patterns that function as clear, consistent signals, instructing the brain precisely when it is time to transition into rest and when it is time to awaken and engage. When these vital signals become weaker, less defined, or are allowed to drift and shift, the internal body clock can lose its precise bearings, frequently leading to an earlier onset of sleep, which then culminates in more fragmented and less restorative sleep overall. However, by carefully observing these evolving patterns and proactively making thoughtful, incremental adjustments, it becomes entirely possible to gently guide the body back towards a sleep cycle that feels considerably more restorative, deeply satisfying, and significantly less disrupted. This conscious engagement with one's habits provides a pathway to regaining control and enhancing overall sleep quality. Emotional and psychological restlessness. Sometimes the perplexing experience of waking up at 3 a.m. has less to do with the tangible physical sensations of the body and more to do with the complex, often silent workings of the mind and spirit. As we gracefully progress through the different chapters of life, emotional layers and subconscious narratives that might have been effectively buried or overshadowed by the incessant demands and busyness of earlier daily routines can begin to surface with poignant clarity in the deep quietude of the night. These early morning hours, when the external world is largely hushed and the usual cacophony of distractions is significantly muted, frequently become a profound internal stage where unaddressed worries, lingering regrets, unspoken sentiments, or deep-seated longings begin to stir and demand attention. One might find themselves lying awake not because of an external noise or a sensation of physical pain, but because their mind is meticulously, almost autonomously, sifting through a multitude of memories, unresolved thoughts, or subtle anxieties that were perhaps not even consciously recognized during the daylight hours. This particular brand of restlessness is distinct from the more overt, often intense, and immediate anxiety that might characterize youth. It is typically quieter, more introspective, and profoundly reflective. It can manifest as a soft, persistent hum in the background of one's thoughts, an indistinct yet palpable sense that something remains unsettled, even if the precise nature of that unrest remains elusive and difficult to articulate. The mind, when not actively engaged and occupied by external tasks or interactions, possesses a natural inclination to reach backward, delving into the complexities of old relationships, reevaluating past decisions, revisiting losses that have been endured, or pondering words that were left unsaid. And crucially, because the aging body is no longer relentlessly rushing from one responsibility to another, there is ample internal space and quiet for these thoughts, memories, and reflections to echo with a greater resonance and clarity than before. It is also critically important to acknowledge the often profound yet understated role that loneliness can play in these nocturnal awakenings. For a significant number of older adults, social circles naturally tend to contract over time. Adult children may have moved away to establish their own lives, lifelong friends may become increasingly busy or pass on, and established daily routines that once fostered consistent social interaction can undergo substantial alteration. While the daytime hours might be abundantly filled with light, activity, and fleeting engagements, the advent of nighttime often ushers in a profound quietude, and with it, a heightened awareness of any emotional or social gaps that may exist. This particular manifestation of loneliness does not always present itself as a heavy, oppressive burden. Sometimes it emerges more subtly, simply as an innate desire for connection, a faint ache for the comforting presence of another person, or the quiet longing for someone with whom to share thoughts and feelings when the house is still and empty. Consider the insightful experience of Gloria, an 80-year-old widow. During her daylight hours, Gloria maintained a wonderfully busy and engaging schedule, meticulously tending her vibrant garden, enjoying regular phone calls with her beloved grandchildren, and engrossing herself in her favorite television programs. However, around 3 a.m., she frequently found herself wide awake, her thoughts inevitably gravitating back to cherished moments she had shared with her late husband, or to a particular worry she consistently managed to keep tucked away and out of conscious focus during the active daylight hours. Initially, she, too, believed there was an inherent problem with her sleep itself. Yet over time, Gloria gradually arrived at a deeper understanding. Her early morning awakenings were not fundamentally about sleep at all. Instead, they were her heart, in its own profound and quiet way, asking to be acknowledged, asking to be heard. To provide herself with compassionate support during these reflective hours, Gloria began the practice of keeping a small, unassuming journal by her bedside. When she awoke, she would sometimes simply write down whatever thoughts were occupying her mind. Nothing elaborate or forced, just a few honest, raw reflections. She also consciously integrated a quiet, calming evening ritual into her routine, such as listening to soft, meditative music or taking a moment to write a brief, heartfelt note to a friend or family member. These small, intentional acts of reflection and connection provided her often stirring emotions with a gentle, constructive outlet, thereby easing her mind and significantly aiding her return to a more peaceful sleep. The profound truth here is that the human heart, with its vast reservoir of memories and emotions, simply does not adhere to a strict, predictable schedule. It remembers what it yearns to remember, it poses the questions it urgently needs to ask, and sometimes it orchestrates all of this deep introspection precisely at 3 a.m., when the surrounding world is in its most profound state of quietude. Yet this should not be interpreted as a flaw or a weakness. Rather, it is a powerful testament to the inherent depth and richness of one's inner life. If you find yourself waking in these early hours and experiencing a flood of reflective thoughts and emotions, it might very well signify that you are carrying a profound wellspring of wisdom, experience, and unresolved feelings that are now ready to be acknowledged and processed. Having lived through a lifetime of joys and heartbreaks, these myriad experiences have not only shaped your memories, but have also fundamentally forged your very sense of self. Therefore, instead of perceiving these early morning awakenings as mere annoyances to be fixed or suppressed, try approaching them with a spirit of gentle curiosity and profound kindness. What is your discerning mind genuinely attempting to communicate to you in these quiet moments? What inner narrative or unspoken sentiment requires a voice and outlet for expression? What particular part of your being is silently yearning for a little grace, a touch of understanding, even in the pervasive darkness of the early morning? Sometimes the most truly meaningful and restorative form of rest arrives not from the futile attempt to ignore or dismiss these powerful internal moments, but paradoxically from consciously honoring them, from engaging with them in a spirit of compassionate inquiry. In doing so, you may discover not only a path to better, more consolidated sleep, but also attain a far richer, more nuanced understanding and appreciation of yourself during this unique and profound stage of life. Final thoughts on understanding your early morning awakenings. As we bring this detailed exploration to a close, it is beneficial to take a quiet, introspective moment to reflect upon the various insights that have been presented. What aspects of this discussion resonated most deeply with your personal experience or observations? Was it the compelling explanation of how your internal biological clock has subtly shifted over time, gently recalibrating your entire sleep-wake cycle? Or perhaps it was the intricate understanding of the subtle yet impactful changes occurring within your physical health and physiology that command your nocturnal attention. Alternatively, you might have found yourself drawn to the more profound, deeper insights into an emotional or psychological rhythm, an internal current that only truly reveals itself when the bustling world outside has fallen silent and still. Each of these 5 comprehensive reasons offers a unique and distinct lens through which to genuinely understand the phenomenon of early morning awakenings, particularly for older adults. Importantly, none of these explanations should be interpreted as suggesting that there is something fundamentally wrong or broken within you. Quite the contrary, each reason serves as a powerful revelation, showcasing just how profoundly and continuously your body and mind are still actively working, still gracefully responding, and still admirably adapting to the multifaceted transformations inherent in navigating this significant stage of life. There is an undeniable quiet power that comes from truly understanding what your body is earnestly trying to communicate, especially during those soft, vulnerable hours just before the dawn breaks. Instead of instinctively perceiving 3 a.m. awakenings as nothing more than an inconvenient nuisance, you might begin to reframe them, to see them as profound messages, gentle yet persistent signals that are thoughtfully reminding you to listen a little more attentively to your deepest needs, to critically examine your established habits, and to commune more intimately with the subtle whispers of your heart. It is crucial to internalize the fact that you are far from alone in experiencing this phenomenon. Countless others share similar nocturnal patterns and are, like you, actively searching for meaningful answers. However, with the acquisition of insightful knowledge comes a formidable strength. And with that newfound strength comes the liberating freedom to implement small yet profoundly meaningful changes. These changes are designed to actively support better, more restful sleep, to foster a deeper, more pervasive sense of comfort and ease, and ultimately, to cultivate a stronger, more harmonious connection to your own unique and evolving biological rhythms. If you have recognized aspects of yourself, your experiences, or your nocturnal patterns within any of the reasons discussed today, please know with absolute certainty that you are not simply undergoing the passive process of aging. Instead, you are actively, dynamically evolving. And intrinsic to this profound evolution is a precious opportunity, an invitation to approach your rest more intentionally, to care for yourself with increased gentleness and compassion, and to greet each new morning with a more profound sense of understanding, acceptance, and inner peace. Your journey through this stage of life, with all its unique challenges and revelations, is a testament to your ongoing capacity for growth and adaptation. Embracing these insights can illuminate your path forward, leading to a richer and more fulfilling experience of well-being.